Okay, good morning, everyone. I thank you to Andrea Schulman, to Linda Ellman, to all of the people at WIT who, Baruch Hashem, have ensured that our learning could continue. It has been, I'm sure for many of you, I know for me, I heard of Zoom, but never in my life used Zoom until 6 weeks ago. And now, Baruch Hashem, I'm not Baruch Hashem, but Baruch Hashem, I live on it most days, for most of the day now. And we have to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the midst of all of this craziness, thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we have the technology that allows us to be connected. Technology certainly comes with all of its challenges and all of its nisyonos. But where would we be without technology today? We're, Baruch Hashem, it's not a minion, but we're able to daven together, we're able to learn together, we're able to remain connected as communities and as a global community, Baruch Hashem. And even a shir like this, which I will tell you, Baruch Hashem, I see now is 123 people on this on this shir. It coming into B'nai Jacob and into WIT every Wednesday morning and seeing the wonderful gathering of special women is really an incredible highlight of my week and gives me incredible chizuk. And I feel such a schus that we could continue that chizuk together, even in the midst of these difficult times. So we hope, again, as Mrs. Schulman mentioned, we thank all of the sponsors, and I look forward, Amiras Hashem, to continuing our learning. Halavai will be together, Amiras Hashem, soon, but until then, Amiras Hashem, our Talmud Torah will remain uninterrupted. So even though this is a Tehillim Shir, I beg your forgiveness for this week, because as I sat down to prepare the Tehillim Shir, I came across something else that I found incredibly overwhelming and exceptionally meaningful and stirring. And actually from this week's parasha, so I hope you'll be mochel this week. In Meretz Hashem, if we focus on something that I never saw it before, and so it just grabbed my attention. It's the little bit of the occupational hazard now that I'm doing all of my shir preparation at home and in my studies. So I have all of my svarim, so I get very easily distracted. So when I begin to prepare topic A, I very sometimes go to something else. So in Meretz Hashem, next week we will go back to Tehillim. We'll be picking up with Kapitel Samech 65. But this week I beg your indulgence as we spend a few moments focusing on Parshas Kedoshim. So remember again, this week we have the great zchus to read the double parashas of Acharei Mos and Kedoshim. And there's a pasuk in number 1, comes from the second of the two parashas, Parshas Kedoshim. And of course, Parshas Kedoshim spends a significant amount of time, a significant amount of time focusing on the halachos or interpersonal halachos, the halachos that we need in order to go ahead and create a just society, create an upright society, know how to treat each other in correct ways. So the Torah says in number 1, Lo sashok esrei acha. Do not go. Now we'll just use the English translation here, although we're going to see that the actual translation of the pasuk itself is subject to machlokes. So the pasuk says, Lo sashok esrei acha. Do not oppress your fellow. Lo sigzol, do not steal or do not rob. V'lo solin pu'ulas sochir itcha ad boker. And do not keep literally the wage of the hired worker overnight with you until the morning. So Rashi understands. We're gonna get a little bit technical just for a few moments. But Rashi understands over here that the pasuk is actually teaching us a variety of different opinions. Lo sashok, if you look at number 2, that's lo sashok, zakovesh schar sochir. That actually refers to, without getting into all the details, but in halacha, there are different types of employment arrangements. So for example, you could hire someone to do a job. So I'm not paying a person ultimately, again, by the hour or even by the day. I'm paying them for the job. So according to Rashi, lo sashok esrei acha means if someone does a job for you and they've completed the job, pay them in a timely fashion. Do not withhold the wages. Lo salin ad boker, Rashi understands. So lo sigzal is lo sigzal, don't steal, although that's going to be the real focus of our shir. And lo salin pula sachir refers to withholding the wages of a day laborer. That if somebody works for you by day and their wage is to get paid by day, do not withhold their wages. So according to Rashi, 3 different halachas being taught us over here. Number 1, if you contracted with someone to perform a task, pay them when the task is complete. Number 2, don't steal, lo sigzol. And number 3, if someone is a day laborer, do not go ahead and withhold their wages after the day. So meaning, according to Rashi, is obviously whenever an employee finishes working, the halacha says there's always some amount of time that the employer has to pay them. Meaning in halacha, you're not expected to necessarily have the cash on hand immediately when your employee finishes working, but you must pay them in a timely fashion. Timely is defined in halacha in different ways. So this is the basic halacha as we have it. Now the Rambam comes, I'm going to do a couple of Rambams today, and you're going to see they're really incredible. If you take a look at the Rambam in number 3, so the Rambam in Hilchos Gezela Va'aveda writes as follows. Ezehi Oshek. So remember again, according to Rashi, Lo Sa'ashok, the opening phrase of that pasuk means that if someone is a laborer, so you have contracted with someone to perform a task, so make sure you go ahead and you pay them when the task is complete. The Rambam understands, you're going to see why this is important in just a moment. Lo Sashok actually means something different. Look at number 3. Ezehu Oshek. What is Oshek? Ze sheba mamon chavero lusoch yado birtzon habaylim. V'chevesh shetavu kavash hamamon etzlo bechazaka v'lo hechziro. The Rambam disagrees with Rashi. And the Rambam understands that actually Lo Sashok means as follows. If someone gave me money, now gave in this context, the Rambam explains, let's say somebody lent me money or someone deposited money with me. Now they want their money back and I don't give it back. According to the Rambam, that's lo sashok. That's the violation of not oppressing your fellow. Someone trusted me and gave me money, whether they gave it to me as a loan or whether they gave it to me to safeguard it, to guarantee it, to hold on to it. They trusted me with something. Lo sashok means do not take advantage of that trust to hold the money for yourself. Okay, that's lo sashok. But what we're going to focus on this morning is really lo sigzol. Because remember again, in the Torah, we have 2 different words for theft, right? We have lo signov and lo sigzol. So they both translate as do not rob, do not steal. Yet we know that in halacha, geneva and gezela are 2 different things. Look at the Rambam in number 4. Ezehu gozel. What does it mean, lo sigzol? What does it mean not to steal? What's gezela? Zeh halokeach mamon ha'adam bechazaka. This is an incredibly important definition. See, we translate geneva and gezela in the same way, to steal or to rob. But writes the Rambam, they are in fact 2 fundamentally different things. Lo sigzol means not to steal from someone bechazaka. Literally means with strength. What does that mean? Kigon shechataf metaltalin miyado, o shenichnas l'reshuso shalo birtzon habaylim, v'natal kelam misham. O shetakaf ba'avado bebehemto v'nishtamish bohen. O shiar l'soch sadeh v'achal perosel. So I'll link some of this to you. So the Rambam says, gezel means, I go over to you and I forcibly take something from you. Whether it's that, now the Rambam gives different examples. You're holding an object, I come and grab it from your hand. I come into your house without your permission while you're there and I take stuff. I go ahead and steal your animals from you. I go ahead and go into your field and take your fruit. So what's the idea of gezela? Gezela is a public display of theft, which manifests itself in one of 2 ways. Either I'm going ahead and just directly taking something from you in your presence. You're holding something and I grab something from your hand. That's gezel, that's theft. I walk into your house when you're there and I take something. That's gezel, that's theft. Or even if you're not there, but the act of theft takes place in a public fashion, that's called gezel. Contrast that with geneva. What's geneva? So again, we translate it the same way. Geneva is also translated as theft. But what's theft? What's geneva, I should say? Geneva is when you do things surreptitiously. You do it secretly, furtively. So I sneak in the middle of the night, right? I go ahead and I make sure that no one's looking. So it's the same act of theft. But what's different about gezel versus, or gezela versus geneva, is the manner in which it's performed. Gezel is a brazen public act. Brazen in that I'm taking something directly. I don't care that you see me taking it. I don't care that you're literally looking at me as I take your object. It doesn't make a difference. It's brazen and it's public. Geneva, still wrong, but done furtively, but done secretly. I don't want anyone to see me. I don't want the owner of the object to see me. I don't want any other people to see me. Everything I do quietly and secretively. So says the Rambam, now we understand the difference. The Torah in the Aseret HaDibros, the Lashon that's given is lo signov. Now it happens to be that according to the Gemara, lo signov is actually not talking about regular theft in the Ten Commandments, but rather it's actually referring to kidnapping, stealing a person. But even leaving that aside, lo signov as mentioned in the Torah, ultimately again, or mentioned in the Aseret HaDibros, is speaking about secretive theft, right? Furtive theft, theft that you do under the radar. Here in the Pasuk in Kedoshim, lo sigzol, don't be so brazen. Don't be such an asaspanim. Don't be so arrogant that you're willing to go ahead and steal something directly from the individual in plain sight, either in plain sight of the owner or in plain sight of people. And then the Rambam says something absolutely amazing. Look at number 5. He says, because kala gozel as chavero shave pruta. Listen to these words. Because if you steal from someone, shave pruta. Now what's shave pruta? Even a pruta, a little like a penny. Even a very small amount. Ki'ilu notel nishmaso. It is as if you are taking his life. As if you're taking his life. An incredible, incredible statement. Says the Rambam, because when you commit an act of gezel, right, of blatant public theft against another person, even though the dollar amount that you're taking is relatively insignificant, all you're taking is a pruta, a penny, a couple of cents, a couple of dollars, it's as if you are taking his life. Ki'ilu notel nishmaso mimenu. It is as if you are taking his life from him. Now, the words of the Rambam require incredible explanation. And they require explanation on 2 levels. So first of all, the Rambam doesn't say, let's say I purposely hurt someone. I go over to Rubin and I break his arm. And as a result, so again, I've done a number of things. I've damaged him. I may have also deprived him of wages, of his ability to earn a livelihood, many different things. Yet, amazingly enough, the Torah does, or the Rambam doesn't say, if you go and you break someone's arm, it's as if you took his life. Ki'ilu notel nishmaso mimenu. It doesn't say that anywhere. In all of the halachos of damages. And remember again, in this case, although it's true I'm doing a very brazen and blatant and public act, what am I taking? A couple of dollars? I stole his sandwich for lunch. I took a relatively insignificant item that's okay, it's worth a pruta. But it's as if I'm taking the guy's life. Yet, for more severe acts of damage, the Rambam never writes this. Another question on this Rambam is even the wording of the Rambam is very interesting. The Rambam says, Rambam could have just said, number 5, Kala gozel as chavero shava pruta. If you take a pruta from someone, kilu notel nishmaso. The Rambam's trying to make the point that when you steal from someone, it's as if you've gone ahead and taken his life. Why does the Rambam have to write that word, mimenu, from him? Who else am I taking his life from, right? If the Rambam's trying to point out over here that when I steal from someone in a blatant, public fashion, brazen fashion, that it's as if I'm taking the life of the individual, obviously I'm only taking the life from the person I stole from. Why do you need the word mimenu from him? And here the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and that's why you have to blame it on the Lubavitcher Rebbe that today's shir is not on Tehillim. It is all the Rebbe's fault. Because I opened up the Sefer, I saw his Sicha on this, and I was blown away by this idea. So look what the Lubavitcher Rebbe says over in number 6. He says, Chumra zu, kayemes dafka bigzela, below bigneva. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe makes another amazing observation. He says, you will only find this verbiage of the Rambam in Gezel by Gezela and not by Gneva. Remember again, 2 different forms of theft. Gezel, public, blatant, brazen theft. Geneva, secretive, furtive, quiet theft. The Baba Rebbe says, the Rambam only makes this statement, that when you steal something from someone, it's as if you've taken their life. Ki'ilu natal nishmaso mimenu, only by gezel, only by public, brazen, blatant theft, and not by Geneva. Why? Look what the Rebbe says. Number 6. Even though, again, remember, the net effect is the same, right? Granted that the process of Gezel and the process of Geneva are different, but the effect is the same, which is what? I've taken something that belongs to someone else and now made it my own. So the impact of the act is the same. Yet, despite that, says the Rebbe, something absolutely amazing. He says, even though it's the same, Shekain haganav makir beba'aluso shala adam al rechusho, v'lachein ein hu me'az lisyatzev mulo, ela notil es rechusho b'gneva. This is such an incredible insight. A ganav, right? So a ganav. So does a ganav know what he's doing is wrong? Does the thief know what he's doing is wrong? Of course, unequivocally so. But in a case of Geneva, the thief has derech eretz for the owner of the item. I know this is going to sound very strange, right? What does it mean? The thief has, if the ganav, Geneva, the thief has derech eretz for the owner. Why does the thief have derech eretz for the owner? He knows it's not his object. He knows it's not his. It doesn't belong to me. I am going to take it. I'm going to take it, but I'm not going to take it right from the hands of the owner. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sneak in at night, or I'll sneak in when the owner is not home, or when the owner is not paying attention. But I'm not going to go over to the owner and take an object from his hands. I'm not going to push him down, take his object, and that I'm not going to do. Why? Because I recognize the object doesn't belong to me. That recognition is not going to be enough to prevent me from stealing. No, don't get me wrong. I'm still going to steal. But at the end of the day, I recognize that this is not my object. I have enough derech eretz to the owner to know he's the owner of the object. Again, I'm going to take it. I'm going to overcome my understanding that the object doesn't belong to me, but I have enough derech eretz not to take it directly from the hands of the owner. Says the Rambam. However, lu'umasa hagazlon sheba begalui umafkia mideha adam es rechusho pogea benekuda yisodit biyose benefesh ha'adam. Says the Rebbe, when someone comes and steals something directly from your hands, when someone comes along and engages in a blatant, brazen act of theft, what they're doing is challenging my essence of my ownership over the object. You want to come and steal from me quietly or secretly? In that act, what you're showing is, I, the thief, don't really own the object. I am going to take it. But you, someone else, you owner, you plony, you own it. But when the thief, when the gazlon, when an act of gezel, gezela occurs, and the act of theft is blatant, brazen, and public, what the thief is saying to the owner of the object, you don't even own it. It's not yours. It's not yours. I have as much right to this as you do. You worked for it. You purchased it. It's in your possession. I don't care. I don't care. Your ownership rights are no more important than my perceived entitlement to that object. He goes on, he says, Pogea binekuda yesodis biyoser nefesh adam. The Rebbe says what the Rambam is teaching us is that when a person commits an act of gezel, not only are they stealing an object from a person, but they are eroding the very sense of ownership that the owner has over that object. There's something interpersonal that is occurring with an act of gezel that doesn't occur with an act of geneva. Meaning, think about this for just a moment. If a person, chas v'shalom, has ever had this experience, So if a person, Chas Shalom, has ever had something robbed from them, something taken from them, so you know there's an incredible feeling of violation. I feel violated. I feel like someone has encroached on my space. That's always true. When someone takes something that belongs to you and just shows a blatant disregard. But says Lubavitcher Rebbe, but when a person goes ahead and commits an act like this in a brazen fashion and fundamentally challenges the fact that I am an owner. You see, when an act of gezel comes along, someone is coming along and says, essentially saying to my face, I don't care that this belongs to you. I don't care that you think you're the owner of this. I don't care. It doesn't make any difference. You see, in Geneva, the thief cares. How do we know he cares? Because he's only stealing in private. He's only stealing, right, in a secretive way. The Gazlan, he said, I don't even care that you think you're the owner. Says the Rambam, when someone does that to me, when I'm the victim of an act of gezel, it's not just the pshat that I have lost an object, but my fundamental sense of self has been eroded. What now you thief have done to me is, you've knocked down my confidence, you've knocked down my sense of self, you've knocked down my entire being. And that's what the Rambam says. Because remember again, let's think about this for just a moment. When we cultivate a sense of self, right? So you ask a person who they are. So although the real answer to that question should be, right, who we are on a spiritual level, most of us don't define ourselves that way. We often define ourselves sometimes by what we do for a living, right? Our job, our career defines us. For some of us, our familial relationships define us. I'm this person's parent. I'm this person's spouse. I'm this person's child. I'm this person's sibling. And for many of us, we define ourselves by what we possess. Our possessions, and I don't mean this like in an unhealthy materialistic way. I mean just in a human way, that our sense of self is very much determined by what we have. And again, this has many ramifications. This is not the topic of our shir, but I often, whenever I'm asked to speak about the concept of tznius, which I've spoken about before, which I will tell you, I never like speaking about the concept of tznius, because I don't really think in general it's a good idea for men to speak about the concept of tznius. I think that there are many wonderful wise women who could speak about the concept. It's easy for a man to speak about tznius because he's telling someone else what it is that they have to do. But think about tznius for just a moment. One of the things that we often miss with tznius is what tznius is supposed to engender. People think that tznius is all, that modesty is all about what you're not supposed to show, what you're not supposed to reveal. That's true. That's an element of tznius. But the primary aspect of tznius is to engender a healthy sense of self. Because clothes make the man or the woman. How you just, again, this is a big topic of discussion now, especially since many of us are not only living at home, but working at home. There's a lot of literature that you could find out. The Wall Street Journal runs articles about this all the time, about should you get dressed? Should you get dressed? People have daytime pajamas, nighttime pajamas, right? Should you put yourself together, right? There's this whole thing now about people coming to meetings on Zoom that they look dressed, but they're wearing shorts or whatever else people wear, because again, people can only see me from this point up. But there is this discussion: should I get dressed even if no one sees me? And the answer, of course, is unequivocally yes. A person should get dressed every single day, just like they're going out of the house. Just like, again, whatever you were doing when life was normal, you should put yourself together in the same exact way. But no one's going to see me. It just means more laundry. No, it doesn't. Because the way you dress has an impact on you. We all know this. If you're fashleptzach, right, then it's daytime pajamas, whatever it is, you conduct yourself a certain way. Person puts themselves together, they comport themselves a fundamentally different way. So my belongings create a sense of self. My belongings create a sense of self. Therefore, says the Rambam, when you go ahead and you go over to someone and you say, that's not yours, it's mine, and I grab it out of their hands, I am eroding that person's sense of self. It's not just that I've just stolen their object. I've stolen an element of their sense of, or an aspect of their sense of self. Says the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that's the meaning. Kala gozel as chavero shavepruta. If you go ahead and you steal something from someone, even though again the object may be relatively worthless, it's only a pruta. Ki ilu no tel nishmaso. You are stealing a piece of their self from them. Because at the end of the day, a good part of who we are is rooted in the things we have. And again, I want to be clear. I don't mean that in an unhealthy, overly materialistic way. There's a sense of self of us that's embedded in the home we live in. There's a sense of self embedded in the objects we purchase, in the clothing we buy. So if someone demonstrates a blatant disregard for my ownership over those things that reflect little pieces of myself, then when they steal that and they take that and disregard my ownership over that, it erodes my sense of self to a certain degree. And therefore, again, the Rambam says, halacha lemaisa, even if you only stole something relatively insignificant, kilu notel nishmasa. So again, now we begin to see the severity of gezela. So gezela is not just bad because you've stolen something, but the Rambam says not only have you stolen an object, but you've stolen a little piece of the owner's sense of self. You've stolen part of who they are, not just their object, but part of who they are. Now, when it comes to the halacha of theft, of gezel, there's an interesting follow-up halacha. Again, we're just going to be technical for a few more moments. Then we'll get a little bit more into the spiritual underpinnings of this. So the halacha of gezel is what we call a lav hanitak la'aseh, which means there are certain prohibitions which can be remedied by the performance of a positive commandment. So this is one of these examples. If you look at number 7 on your sheet, so the Torah says, "Vayok yechatav Hashem v'heishiv es hagezela asher gazel." So there's good news. Even if I go ahead and commit an act of theft, of gezel, which is a very severe act of theft, even if I do that, I could remedy the act. How do I remedy the act? It's very simple. Give back the object. Give back the object. Simple, right? So again, remember, some averus, you can't necessarily fix. You could try to do tshuva. For example, a person consumes a non-kosher item. Well, what am I supposed to do? I could do tshuva. So what should I do? I should make myself regurgitate it. By the way, even if a person would do that, you're still chayiv. Right? You're still chayiv for the act of non-kosher consumption because you've eaten something non-kosher. So there's a perfect example. I ate something not kosher. Could I do tshuva? Of course, you could do tshuva for anything and everything. So I could do tshuva. I can ask Hashem for forgiveness. I can promise not to do it again. Go through all of the steps. But there's no direct act to remedy that wrongdoing. Conversely, sometimes there are averus which can be offset or remedied by the performance of a positive commandment. So gezel, theft, is one of those examples. I stole an object. I've done something wrong. I can fix it. How do I fix it? Give it back. Give back that which you stole, and ultimately, again, all is good, right? All is good. Everything will be remedied. Move on with your life. So take a look at number 8. An amazing halacha. Amazing. Now the Rambam says something. It's going to cause you to fall off your chair. The Rambam writes, "V'afal pikein, imlo haisag zilakayamis." Now, this halacha works again. I know we're getting a little bit technical this shir. You'll bear with the technicalities literally for just 2 more minutes, and then you're going to see something amazing. So the Rambam says, this works fine if the object that I stole is in existence, right? So for example, I go over to Rubin, I steal Rubin's watch right off his wrist. Okay, I committed an act of gezel. Now I decide I want to do tshuva. So how could I do that? Pretty easy. I give him back the watch. So I give him back the watch. All is good, right? I've done tshuva. What happens if I sold the watch? I sold the watch. I stole it. I sold it. So I don't have the watch, but I have the money. So the Rambam says something amazing. V'afa pikein im lo haisa hagzela kayemes v'ratza hagazlan la'asos tshuva uba me'ela v'hechser d'mei hagzela. So now what happens? I'm the thief. I'm the gazlan. I stole the watch. I feel very bad, but I sold it. So I have $500, a nice watch, $500. So I come over to Rubin, he was the owner of the watch. I say, Rubin, I'm sorry, I'm trying to do tshuva, I'm trying to change my ways. Here is the $500. Here's the $500. Go ahead, right? I want to do tshuva. So look what the Rambam writes. Get ready for this. Takonas chachamim hi she'in mekablin mimenu. The halacha is, we say to Rubin, don't accept the money back. I'm a thief. I stole Rubin's watch. Not only did I steal it, it's not like I broke into his house in the middle of the night or I waited for him to go to work. I was so blatant and so brazen that I pulled it off his wrist. He's yelling and screaming, it's my watch, I don't care. I literally pull it off his wrist. I sell it. So the watch is gone. I've got $500, market value for the watch. I decide to do tshuva. I say, Rubin, here's $500. What does the halacha say? The halacha whispers into Rubin's ear, tell Silber, it's okay. You keep the money. What? Yeah, tell Silber, even though he wants to do tshuva, I'm not accepting the money. There is a rabbinic enactment that we do not accept the money from the thief. Ella, ozrin oso umochelin lo kedei lekarif haderech hayeshara el hashadim. Rather, what we want to do is we want to make it easier for the thief to do tshuva. So how do you incentivize? How do you make it easier for a thief to do tshuva? It's very simple. Tell him he doesn't have to pay back anything. And as long as he doesn't have to pay back anything, then at the end of the day, that will encourage him to be able to do tshuva. So the halacha says we have a vested interest in the thief doing tshuva, and therefore to facilitate, to enable, and even to encourage tshuva, we tell the victim, even though the thief is coming to you and trying to make you whole, say no thank you. Say no thank you. Just say, Hatzlacha Rabba, best of luck on your journey of tshuva. I hope I hope honestly that we never see each other again. I'm okay never running into each other again because my last experience with you was not so great. But you keep the money, consider it the startup capital for your new chapter of life. Much hatzlacha. Not only I've cut the Rambam ends. Look at the end of last line of number 8. And if Reuven decides to accept the money for his watch, ein ruach chachamim nochehimenu. The rabbis are not very happy with such a person. An incredible halacha. An incredible halacha. So now, again, I'm the thief. I'm trying to do tshuva. So remember, again, I just want to point out, on a technical level, if the object that I stole is still in existence, the halacha mandates I give that back. That I have to give back, and that Reuven is permitted to accept back. Because it's not right for me to walk around wearing Reuven's watch. Everyone knows it's Reuven's watch. Reuven knows it's his watch. So that I have to give back. This is a very specific circumstance where the thief sold the item that he stole. So he doesn't have the item, but he has the money. The thief wants to make good. I'm the thief. I show up at Reuven. Reuven's the victim. Reuven, here you go. I'm sorry. Chatasi avisi pashati. Here's the money. The halacha says, Reuven, don't take it. Say, Silber, you're a thief. You're doing tshuva. You keep the money. Hatzlacha. It's okay. I don't need it. I don't want it. The halacha tells you not to accept it. And not only that, but if Reuven does accept it, so the halacha whispers in his ear, Reuven, we're not very happy with you. Where does this halacha come from? So the Gemara in number 9 tells an amazing story. An amazing story. Get ready for this. Tan Rabbanon. Hagazlonan umalabi beribi shechzira emekablen mehen. So the Gemara quotes halacha. The Gemara says, thieves, gazlonim, those who lend with interest, when they want to do tshuva and return the money, we tell the victim, don't accept the money. And if you do accept the money, if the victim does accept the money, the Chachamim are not happy with such an individual. Where does this come from? Get ready for this story. Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, Bimei Rebbe Nishnis Mishnazu. This Mishnah, this concept, was taught during the days of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Get ready. Disanya. Listen to this story. Maisa ba'adam echad shebikesh lasos tshuva. There was once a man who wanted to do tshuva. Now, the backdrop to this story is obviously the people in this story are unnamed, and they remain unnamed. But there was a man. Now, this man, by the way, was a career criminal. He was a career thief, a thief for decades and decades and decades. And by the way, Baruch Hashem, he was very successful. Very successful. He built a nice life for him and his mishpacha based on theft. Based on theft. One day, one day he has a change of heart. He has a change of heart. You'll say, no, so what's the question you're thinking to yourself? What's the question you're thinking? So, no, what happened? Why did he have a change of heart? You know, Rabbi Soloveitchik writes in one of his drushes on tshuva, he says, everyone does tshuva. Everyone does tshuva. In fact, if you look at the Rambam's Hilchos Tshuva, the way the Rambam opens up, the first line in Hilchos Tshuva, mitzvahs aseh lasos tshuva, kishe ya'asa tshuva v'yachzor mecheto chayiv lisvados. When a person does tshuva, he's obligated to confess. So Rabbi Soloveitchik says, why does the Rambam say when a person does tshuva? It should say what? It should say what? If a person does tshuva. If a person does, so the Rav says, you see from here, that in Maimonidean thinking, everyone does tshuva. Rabbi Soloveitchik writes, he says life is a circle. The only variable is how large the radius of your circle is. Everyone comes back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Some people find the courage to do it when they're young. Some people wait until they're older. And some people do it with their last breath in this world. But everyone comes back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says the only question is if it's a radius anaki, is it a large radius of the circle or a small radius? So this guy who's a career criminal decides to do tshuva. The question is not why. The question is of course he wants to do tshuva. The story of our lives, we each have our own narrative, but there's one common chapter in each of our narratives. It's called the chapter that's titled tshuva. For some of us, that chapter is chapter 2. For some of us, that chapter is chapter 102. But that's a chapter in everyone's narrative of their life. There's always tshuva. So this guy wants to do tshuva. Listen to this story. Amar lo ishto, his wife said to him, Reika, you are a fool. Now, that's not an uncommon dialogue in many homes, but the tragic nature of this dialogue is very profound. So she says to her husband, you're a fool. Imata osa tshuva, afilu avneit eno shelcha. She said, you fool. If you do tshuva, do you know what that means? Remember, she says to her husband, honey, let's talk about this. My love, let's talk this out for just a little bit. You want to do tshuva. You're a criminal, a very good criminal, don't get me wrong. You're excellent. You've always provided wonderfully for the family, right? We live a very nice life. You want to do tshuva. Tshuva for theft, by definition, necessitates what? Giving back everything you stole. If you give back everything you stole, you own nothing. Even your belt, that's a nice belt. That belt, by the way, remember, you stole that from Chaim Yankel. Right? That's not your belt. Or maybe it's not the belt you stole, but you bought that belt, ultimately, again, with proceeds from another theft. So if you want to do tshuva, we're going to be stuck with nothing. We're going to be stuck with nothing. And what are we going to do? So what happens? The wife makes a good point. So nimna v'lo asa tshuva. A tragic story. The man therefore decides, you know what? I'm not going to do tshuva. I'm not going to do tshuva. But, so first of all, you see an incredible musar from this story. What's the musar? Everyone wants to do the right thing. Everyone wants to do the right thing. But if doing the right thing becomes too difficult, most people will simply not do it. It's an incredible dichotomy and dialectic that we have inside of us. I always want to do the right thing. But if doing the right thing becomes too complicated, sorry, I wish I could. I wish I could, but I can't. Here you have this guy who has an awakening, this thief who has an awakening for tshuva. No one's forcing him. It seems to be his life is going totally fine. He's rolling in the dough. He's doing great. He's providing for his mishpacha. He's a successful thief. Or, he might even have people working under him. But yet he has this awakening that life has to be different. Life needs to be different. Life should be different. His wife tells him, do you understand what that means? If you suddenly want to be a tzaddik, that's great. I'm fully supportive, except you're a fool, because then we have nothing. To which he says, you know what, you're right. You're right. So in that moment, when he's faced between the decision of doing what's right and upending his life, he can't find the courage to upend his life. And by the way, that's not the chisaron, that's not something lacking in our thief in the story over here. That is the nature of the human condition. Most people are like that. I want to do what's right. I want to do what's right. But if doing what's right becomes too difficult, I don't know that I have the inner conviction or the inner strength to do that. I don't know that I could so dramatically modify my entire lifestyle in order to do what's right. So therefore, the man in the story doesn't do tshuva. Now, I don't know how, but somehow this story becomes public. This story becomes public. And this story created quite a stir in the Beis Medrash. Because what did they realize? They realized was an individual was on the cusp of doing tshuva, but couldn't do it because it was too difficult. So listen to what this story created. Ba'osa Shah Amru, Hagazlonin, Umalavi Ribi Shechziru, Ein Mekablin Mehen. Da Mekabo Mehem, Ein Ruach Chachamim Nochehemenu. In that moment, Chazal legislated a new halacha. And what was the new halacha? What was the new law? That if a thief wants to do tshuva, now remember, the thief has to come to his victim and offer to compensate the victim. That's his avoda. He has to face, the thief has to face the aggrieved party, has to face the victim, has to apologize to the victim, and has to offer to pay back the victim. But what does the victim do in that moment? The victim says, no thank you. The halacha says, the victim says to the thief, thank you so much for coming to me. Thank you so much for trying to make this right. Thank you so much for, it must have taken a lot of courage for you to come to me, but it's okay. You keep the money. You keep the money. Now just to understand the underpinning of this halacha, is that it's in society's best interest that people do tshuva. That's what's happening over here. This is a societal enactment. It is in society's best interest that a thief does tshuva, because we don't want people to be thieves. If it's going to be too difficult to do tshuva, ultimately thieves won't do tshuva. Therefore, in order to facilitate the tshuva of the thief, which is of societal benefit, we tell the thief, you must face your victim, you must apologize, and you must offer to compensate. But the victim says, no thank you. This way the thief knows that he could do tshuva without what? Without fundamentally turning his life upside down. Because if tshuva becomes too difficult, even the most sincere penitent will not do it. An incredible and overwhelming Gemara. This is what's called in halacha the takanas hashavim, the enactment for the penitents. This way, again, for those, Chazal said, we want to facilitate tshuva, make tshuva as easy as possible. The thief has to come and offer to pay back, but the victim does not accept the repayment, and therefore we rehabilitate the thief, and that is a benefit to society. Comes along the Lubavitcher Rebbe and says something absolutely amazing in number 10. He says as follows, Hezber Adavar, what's the understanding of this? Hakol od nitin lahachzir sachefetz hagazol, mitzvah lasozos. Shekin bekach mitaknim es achumra gedola, nitilas anashama. So remember again, let's take a step back. When the object is in existence, obviously under those circumstances, the thief has an obligation to return it, right? If the object itself still exists, because this goes back to what we said before. When you steal an object from someone, you steal a certain piece of their self. So if the object is still in existence, the thief has an obligation to give it back, to restore the sense of self. However, again, if the object is no longer there, the thief sold the object, and all there is money, so there Chazal instituted the takanas hashavim, the enactment of the Bali Tshuva, the enactment of the penitence. So the thief has to go back, offer a payment, the victim says no thank you, the thief could keep the money, doesn't have to upend his life. Paragraph base. Takanazu, he says, skip down a little bit actually, paragraph Gimel, excuse me. Mehalachazu, what's the takeaway message? So remember again, there is a societal message. The societal message is, society has a vested interest in the spiritual rehabilitation of criminals. And therefore again, whatever we could do to facilitate that and to ensure that that occurs, we are ready to do. Even if that means that Rubin, the victim, is going to lose his money, that is a small price to pay for communal benefit. So if I, the thief, could be rehabilitated, and the way to facilitate my rehabilitation is to cause Rubin to lose a little bit of money, we're going to allow the individual to lose if it allows society ultimately to grow and to benefit. But says the Rebbe something amazing. Paragraph Gimel. But there's a personal lesson as well. And what's the personal lesson? At kama tzarech ha'adam leis amides kedei l'seiya liyehudi sheni lashuv b'tshuva. From here, says the Lubavitcher, we learn an incredible lesson. To what lengths I must go for the spiritual benefit and rehabilitation of my fellow Jew. You see, one could look at this halacha and say to themselves, you know what, come on. That Reuben wants to do, that the thief, I'm the thief. Right? Reuben could say that Silber wants to do tshuva. Fantastic. Let Silber do it on his own dime. Right? Why do I have to lose $500? Because this will help Silber become a Baal tshuva. That doesn't seem right. Says the Rebbe, it is. Because what is this? All of these halachos are derivatives of v'ahavta l're'acha kamocha. When Rabbi Akiva said v'ahavta l're'acha kamocha zeh klal gadol b'Torah, this is an important principle in the Torah. So what is Rabbi Akiva saying? That v'ahavta l're'acha kamocha, loving your fellow, drives everything else. You see, when Reuven sees that I want to do tshuva, Reuven has, it's not just a societal obligation, but Reuven has a personal obligation to facilitate that tshuva as well. What it means to be connected as a nation, what it means to care about and to love the other, is that I must be willing to sacrifice for your ruchnius. I must be willing to sacrifice for your spirituality. I must be willing to give up something of myself if it enables you ultimately to be able to spiritually grow. And in this case, Reuven must be willing to give up his money if it will enable my spiritual growth. Im kedei lekariv haderech hayishara ala shavim tiknu chazal sheyimcha la'adam al mamono kol shekin shalav lasos kalatali bon kedei lekariv Israel v'Yisrael. Chazal are trying to teach us another lesson, an important lesson. I must have a vested interest in my fellow spiritual growth. When it comes to the world of spirituality, we often think, I'm responsible for me, you're responsible for you. I've got my hands full with me, you have your hands full with you. This halacha comes to teach us that in fact that is not the case. I am obligated to look out for your spirituality, and you are obligated to look out for my ruchnius. Says the Lubavitcher, how do I know that? Because Chazal tell Reuven is the victim. Reuven didn't do anything. Reuven worked hard to purchase his nice watch, and I came along and I ripped it off his wrist, sold it, and is ready. So very nice. I have an epiphany that now I want to be a tzaddik. I have an epiphany, I want Art Scroll to write my biography. I have an epiphany, I want my children to think I'm a tzaddik. Fantastic, great, Silber. So happy I had your epiphany of righteousness. Go figure it out. But the halacha says, no, Reuven, if Silber has the epiphany of righteousness, you need to help him along that journey. You need to help him along that journey. Why? So the Rebbe goes on. He says, so okay, we could say the rest of it. So that Rebbe says, that's the message here. That we have a vested interest in each other's spiritual growth. It's not just the pshat that you have to focus on your ruchnius and I have to focus on my ruchnius. But you must not only be interested in my spirituality, but you even have an obligation to invest in my spirituality. But I want to tell you what the deeper lesson of this is. See what the Rebbe is teaching us. If you go back to that story, and I find this story so, the Gemara between the husband and the wife in number 9, so profoundly overwhelming. Do you know why this man didn't do tshuva? Do you know why the man didn't do tshuva? It's a very simple thing. His wife didn't believe in him. She essentially says to him, you're an idiot. You're a fool. I don't understand what you're talking about. This man wants to do something good. But his wife essentially says, you can't. His wife doesn't believe in his ability to turn himself around. And in life, if you want to affect profound change, What you need so much is a support system. What you need are to have people around you who believe in your ability to be great. And conversely, if you see someone who really wants to become the best version of themselves, you have an obligation to actively support that person on their journey. Says the Rebbe, do you know what's happening over here? Do you know what's happening over here? Let's play this out. Again, I stole Ruben's watch. I'm a bad guy. I've spent a lifetime stealing. I stole Ruben's watch. I ripped it off his wrist. I decided I want to do tshuva. I come to Rubin. I say, Rubin, I'm sorry, I don't even have the watch. I sold it. Here's $500. Rubin says, no, thank you. What's happening in that moment when Rubin says, it's okay, you keep it? What Ruben's really saying is, Silver, I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe that you don't have to be a criminal. I believe that you don't have to be a thief. I believe that there is a better version of you that is waiting to be actualized. I believe that you have potential. I believe that you have strength. I believe in you. When he says no thank you to the money, more important than him allowing me not to upend my lifestyle by having to pay back the money, is Reuven saying to me, I believe in you. I believe in your ability to change. I believe in it. Because the reason the Gemara tells us this story is because at the end of the day, the reason why the unnamed Ish in the story does not change is because he didn't have a support system which believed in him. He didn't have a wife, he didn't have a friend, he didn't have anyone who was able to tell him, you know what? You can be great. How it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, what changes are going to have to be made, that remains to be seen. But at the end of the day, we believe in you. Says the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the halacha is coming to teach us that we need to learn to believe in one another. That we must find ways to actively support each other. Not just the pshat that your ruchnius is your problem, my ruchnius is my problem. I have a vested interest in making sure that you become the holiest version of yourself. And you have the same obligation towards me. An obligation to support each other. And this is so incredibly important because this goes ahead and manifests itself in a variety of ways. How do we invest in each other? How do we believe in one another? And I think there are a couple of ways. First of all, forgiveness is a very powerful tool. A lot of times people wrong us. Well, hopefully not a lot of times, but many times in life when people wrong us. So we're not ready to forgive. And maybe we're not ready to forgive because we don't feel the person is really genuine in wanting forgiveness. Maybe the person never even asked for forgiveness. You know, forgiveness serves a twofold purpose. Forgiveness is beneficial for the forgiver, right? Forgiveness ultimately, again, allows the individual to say, I don't want to harbor animosity in my heart anymore. I don't want to hold on to it anymore. I want to be able to release that. So I'm forgiving you, not for you. I'm forgiving you ultimately, again, for me. But forgiveness also does something else. When you forgive someone, what you are telling them is, I believe that you can be better than the person who hurt me. The person who hurt me, that's not the real you. The person who hurt me, that's someone who was at a very low point and did something really detrimental to me. But I believe that doesn't have to be you. I believe you can become someone better than the person who hurt me in such a profound way. One of the ways in which we invest in each other, ultimately again, is through forgiveness. One of the ways we invest in each other, ultimately, is to let go of the animosity. Because as long as I hold on to animosity, what I'm really saying is, my only conception or perception of you is as the person who visited such hurt and such harm upon me. The way we invest in each other is by forgiving. When you forgive, you're doing something for yourself and you're investing in the individual, reminding them, I think you can be someone greater, someone better. There's another piece. How do we invest in the other? Now I want to tell you an incredible story. In our shul, you know, in many shuls, in the greater community, one of the great challenges that exists is the people who are elderly, alone, and isolated, right? The elderly are often alone and isolated in general, or the more so now. So one of the things that we do is every Erev Shabbos, we deliver packages to a number of people in the Kehila, people who are alone, people really don't have any social contact because of age, people who might be widows or widowers. I want to tell you a phone call that I received this past Erev Shabbos from one of the elderly people in our shul. She said, Rabbi Silber, I was so happy to get the package, but not because I need the cake and not because I needed the flowers, but because I'm an elderly person and I am so scared that I'm going to die alone. She said, I have more time behind me than in front of me. And I don't know how long this coronavirus, COVID-19 situation is going to go on. And my greatest fear is that will my life come to an end in these circumstances and I'll be all alone. And when I received that package, I remembered that I am remembered. I remembered that I am remembered. I remember that people didn't forget about me. I gained solace in the fact that I haven't just been totally marginalized, that people haven't just moved on with their lives and forgotten my face and forgotten my name. How many times do people feel forgotten and marginalized? How many times do people just simply feel left out? And when you feel insignificant, you don't really have the koach to go on and accomplish great things. In these days, we have the opportunity to make people feel special, make people feel important, and really give people the chizik to do great things with simple things. It's a text message, it's a phone call, it's an email. Hi, thinking about you. The Lubavitch Rebbe tells us that we have an obligation to invest in each other. That investment comes in various different ways, but the investment always means one simple thing: communicating to another person that I believe that you are special. I believe that you can be someone even greater. I love you for who you are, but I also recognize what you can become. That's the obligation we have. Chazal institutionalized this by the thief. Takanas hashavim. So the thief shows up, I show up at Rubin's door with the $500, ready to pay him back, ready to make him whole, ready to do my part in rectifying the wrong that I've done. And what does Rubin say? Keep it. Keep it. Yes, because society has a vested interest in my rehabilitation, but more importantly, because Rubin's doing for me what the wife in the story didn't do for her husband, which is believe in me. Rubin's telling me in that moment, I believe you can become something great. I believe you could do so, even though you hurt me so badly, but I believe you can be better. Says the Lubavitch, this is the mandate we have. And the truth is, this lesson is so important. How many times do we encounter shalom bayis problems, marital strife? And people often deal with marital strife in all the wrong ways. I can't tell you how many shalom bayis meetings I've had that always begin in the same way. The wagging of the accusatory finger. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. I have yet to see a marriage that has been put back on the rails by hurling of accusations. You have problems in your marriage, the best way to fix it is tell your spouse how wonderful they are. I know it sounds totally counterintuitive, but remind them that you married them because of all the positive qualities, because of all the beautiful things you saw in them. Because when you remind people that you believe in them, you give them the courage to build themselves up. If you deconstruct people, if you tell someone they're a nothing, there is no incentive to become a something. With our children, and the way we raise our children. So again, parents are good at giving positive reinforcement when a child does something of note. Child does something of note, a good test, an academic accomplishment, a learning accomplishment, a spiritual accomplishment. A parent has to communicate to their child every single day, I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. And I'm investing. I love you. I care about you. And I believe you can become something great. What it is, I don't know. Who it is, I don't know. But I just want to tell you that I believe in you. What does it mean to be a friend? People think that the friend is the person when you're going to 7 Mile Market or going to market, you're going shopping, can I pick you something up from the store? That's just being a decent human being. I don't know if that's friendship. A friend is someone who invests in you. A friendship is when people say, I'm willing to invest in you, you invest in me. I believe in you, you believe in me. This is the obligation we have towards each other, of mutual investment. In the realm of Ruchnius, taking care of your own spirituality is a very important first step, but it is not the last one. It's true, you must look out for your Ruchnius, I must look out for mine, because as Hillel says, Emeina nili mili. You have to take responsibility for you, I have to take responsibility for me. But as a people, we must figure out different pathways of mutual investment. Because when we find a way ultimately again to make sacrifices for the growth of the other, to make investments for the growth of the other, that's ultimately when we each become the best version of ourselves. And amazingly enough, where does this all come from? One little phrase in this week's parsha. Lo sashal kesreacha velo sigzo. So literally again, do not oppress your fellow and don't steal. But if your fellow did steal, even if you see people in their lowest points, don't give up hope on them. Find the courage to believe in them, because if you find the courage to believe in others, you will give them the courage to believe in themselves. But I'll end off, I know I'm over my time, I'll end off just with one last piece. It's very important to believe in others. But you know the most important thing, the only way you can believe in others is if you first believe in yourself. You know, there's another tragic part to this story. The tragic part to the story is the husband should have had a little bit more of a backbone. I'm not saying that like as a marriage thing. I'm just saying that the husband should have said, you know what, wife, just because you don't believe in me, I refuse to give up on myself. The tragic essence of this story is that there was a wife who didn't believe in the husband, but the more tragic component was that there was a husband who didn't believe in himself. Because, my dear friends, at the end of the day, although we all should believe in each other, and we all should invest in one another, and we all ultimately, again, should make sacrifices for the growth of the other, you can't really rely on other people to urge you to become the best version of yourself. While we must each make the investment in each other, we must also find the courage to invest in ourselves, to believe in ourselves. How many of us go through life with just such a low feeling of self-worth, with such a low feeling of self-opinion? How many of us look in the mirror and all we see is an image of mediocrity looking back at ourselves? And all we see is just a regular person. If you don't believe in your own ability to be great, you can't expect other people to believe it either. So if you bring it all together, the Battleship teaches us from the parish such an incredible yesod. We must make sacrifices for the growth of the other. We must invest in the growth of the other. We must believe in the greatness of the other. But the prerequisite to all of that is ultimately, again, to find the ability to believe in ourselves. May be Zochem Eretz Hashem to internalize these incredible lessons. Begin with the process of believing in ourselves. Stop settling for mediocrity. Recognize the greatness we possess, and once we see it in ourselves, then may we be Zochem Eretz Hashem to help bring it out in others as well. Eshkach Tarvan for joining today. Next week we will, Eretz Hashem, resume Tehillim, Kapitel Samech Vav, chapter 66 in Tehillim. Wishing everyone a wonderful rest of the week. Of course.